Hello, everybody. Welcome to this second edition of the summer series, Thrive from Within. I'm so happy to have you all here, whether you're watching live or the recording. Today's topic is called Zen in 10. One of my favorite topics to talk about is meditation. And so I will spend some time in some education, and then we're going to do a little bit of a meditation practice. So if you do towards the end have the opportunity to either sit still, like quietly, or even lay down, I will read a meditation to you. So just to kind of give you a heads up of what to expect there. But ultimately, I want you to know a little bit more about myself. I am Sara Klute Behn. I am a health coach, and I am on a mission to help women basically break free of anxiety, of the overwhelm, of the weight, whether it's physical or emotional, and then also help them regain their strength, regain their confidence, and ultimately thrive in mind, body, and spirit. So that is what my mission is. And I work with women typically in middle age, can be anywhere from our 30s, which doesn't feel like middle age, but sometimes some of these things start to happen in our 30s, definitely 40s and 50s. And then I hear that after that, everything's just wonderful and amazing. So that's what we're holding out for. But let's go ahead and get started. I'm going to present my screen here. All right. Let's go ahead and begin. So, as we get started today, I already shared a little bit about myself and the fact that today we are sharing, I'm doing a little practice on nervous system regulation called Zen in 10. And today's agenda is going to include introductions. If you feel comfortable, throw your name in the chat and where you're calling in from. And I already introduced myself. So, we got that part out of the way. And then I'd like for us to just take a couple moments here to get grounded. And what I mean by that is just allowing yourself this present time. So I know some of you might be busy, you might be on a walk, you might be driving your car. So don't feel like you have to close your eyes or anything like that. But just taking a few moments to anchor into our breath, anchor into the present moment and to awareness in our body. So that can be through a few cleansing breaths, can be closing your eyes and doing a little body scan. I'm going to walk you through a little bit of both, but just feel free to do what you feel comfortable doing in this moment. So go ahead and close your eyes if you're able and take a couple of deep cleansing breaths. In through the nose, sigh it out through the mouth. Do that a couple more times. I'm kind of rocking back and forth. I'm standing, so I'm rocking back and forth on my feet. Sometimes that feels good just to remind me to ground into the floor where I'm standing. And then maybe taking a hand to the stomach, a hand to the heart, if that feels comfortable, and just allowing yourself to feel the breath breathing you. Feel that loop of breath going down into the belly, up to the chest, and out to the mouth, and that cycle starting over again. Taking a moment to maybe scan the body, just noticing if there's any tight spaces. Sometimes we need to wiggle the neck or roll the shoulders or rock the head side to side, maybe pedal the feet a little bit. Just notice again any tension, any space that feels like it just needs a little bit of extra TLC in this moment. And maybe help it out by sending your breath to that space. Go ahead and feel our intention for our time together. You be open and aware, open minded, open hearted, aware of maybe what it is that is trying to come forward for us today. We can seal that intention with one more breath and exhale, and then join me back here whenever you're ready. So, we're going to dive in today to a little bit on the koshas, which is the layers of the self. We're going to talk a little bit about the science of meditation because, of course, that is an important aspect. We're going to look at that framework for the Zen and 10 and how we can bring that in an easy or simple, maybe sometimes not always easy, but simple 10-minute practice sequence each day. And then we'll do the guided practice. And then we'll talk a little bit about habit integration and some other things that I have at the end of our time together. So, as part of my yoga therapy training, the koshas was an important part of us understanding the sheaths or the layers of the body. So, these five layers represent the whole self. And in yoga philosophy, you can see here it says that it reminds us that we are more than our bodies. And especially as women and caregivers, every layer deserves attention. So as I talk through each of these layers, I want you to be thinking about where do I need to focus more attention? And sometimes it ends up being all five layers, but maybe there's one area that really stands out to you that feels like it needs more attention. So when we look at the Anamaya kosha, that is the physical body, that is the bones, the muscles, that is everything that structurally makes up our body. But we can find that our physical body can be fatigued. We literally, sometimes we say, I'm so tired down to my bone, or we can be on sensory overload. So things like really a lot of lights and a lot of sounds and just a lot of commotion or chaos going on can just bring in a lot of sensory overload to our body, which can ultimately make us feel heavy in our body. And then the flip side of that, and the kind of the positive side of that, is that we can retrain our body in how we nourish it and how we move it. And then we go down to the pranamaya kosha, and that is our breath body. This is where sometimes we find that shortness of breath could be happening if we are maybe feeling a little bit anxious. We have something coming up that's really important to us. Sometimes we feel that way before a public speaking event. The opportunity for us to train or retrain our autonomic nervous system. And we also, or what we're finding, something that I oftentimes talk to my clients about is where are we leaking our energy? Sometimes at the end of the day, we're exhausted and it's like, nothing unusual happened today. It was kind of a normal day. I worked or I took care of the kids or I did all these things, but I am exhausted. And so maybe just taking an inventory of where you're leaking energy and you're not refilling your cup back in to help care for you through that process. And then the Manamaya kosha is our mental emotional body. So if you think about when the same thing when our breath body, we're in that nervous state, we might from the mental emotional body might be also looking at our heart starts racing or we start worrying a lot. We get very mental and very up in our head about something. And the positive side of that is that we have mindfulness tools and meditation tools to help us also, again, retrain or help us in those moments where we have the racing thoughts, the racing heart, all that worry is happening. And then we have the Vijnana Maya Kosha. I invite you to try saying that 5 times in a row. The Vijnanamaya Kosha is the wisdom body. So this can look like our inner critic. It might be the thing that's trying to make meaning from whatever is happening. So it's going to be that asking why. Why is this happening? Or why is it important to me? And that's where we lean into and tune into our values and our ethics. So this is another part that's really important to me to work with my clients on because I want them to tune back into what is important to them. Oftentimes we lose sight of that because we're so busy taking care of everyone else that we have forgotten what is truly important to us. And then the final state here is the Anandamaya Kosha. And this is what we call the bliss body. So this can be that blissful state, that higher self that we understand and can embody and practice rest as remembrance, meaning that I am better at taking care of myself and others when I have brought in care and rest for myself. It's tuning into that higher self, that voice, that inner voice of wisdom that's telling you what you need the most. So, again, I just invite you to think about through each of those koshas, maybe a practice that feels resonant for you and what it is that you need the most right now, where you need to focus the most. And this next slide might help give you some ideas also. I plugged in this slide as actually an extra slide. This is from my sleep and rest module, but I felt like this was really important for you all to see because I believe that it's important that women and caregivers understand that rest is not being lazy and that it is a skill that oftentimes needs practice. Sometimes people are like, oh, I can't meditate. I can't rest. I can never let down. And that is called fight or flight, my friends. And that's your nervous system kicking into high gear. And sometimes we're always in that state to the point where we don't even realize that we're in that state all the time. So I invite you to take a look at these different types of rest. It can be active, it could be inactive, it can be just simply things that bring you joy. So looking at physical rest, you're looking at maybe like a nap or a gentle yoga practice. Mental rest might be pausing every hour or two when you're working and taking 5 or 10 breaths or walking around for a few minutes to kind of step away from your work to give yourself that mental break. The other thing that I've been trying to be a little bit better about, oftentimes I'm walking without my phone, but sometimes that's the only time I really actually get to look at my phone because the rest of the time I'm busy working on my computer. So, walking without your phone or just letting the phone sit on the charger at night for an hour if that's what you need. Emotional rest could be journaling, just allowing those feelings to flow out into a space that you're releasing those feelings someplace in a healthy way, of course. And then social rest could be space from draining situations or relationships. And what that ultimately oftentimes means is saying no, which is a whole other thing that I oftentimes am working with my clients on is helping coach them on how to say no without feeling guilty. So taking a moment to give yourself a little bit of an inventory there, the types of rest that we just talked about, and what is keeping me from resting, and what do I need to call in more of in terms of those different types of rest. And it might just be one area, and that's great. Moving right along to the science of meditation. This is really important because we know that over literally thousands of research, what exactly is happening in a meditator's brain. So the long-term effects show that there's literally an increase in that gray matter, which means that it's literally growing in the areas that are responsible for focus and emotional control. And so that ultimately is going to help us with that self-awareness and regulation or self-regulation that I'm oftentimes again coaching my clients on. And then we go to the right there and we look at cellular aging. And the studies show that telomeres are significantly longer than non meditators of the same age. That's suggesting that meditation may actually literally slow down aging at a chromosomal level. And then we go back to the left column to immune response. There's been a huge study that was done that found after just 8 weeks of mindfulness training that participants produced significantly more antibodies to a flu vaccine, showing that meditation actually primes your immune system as well and helps it respond more effectively. So that is really helpful. And then the nervous system, or that right hand column there, is talking about slow and controlled breathing, pranayama breathing, which is slowing down into 4 to 6 breaths per minute. So if you think about 10 seconds to inhale, 10 seconds to exhale, if you can extend it that far out, that's amazing. And that's something to work towards. But that the vagus nerve, which is triggering that parasympathetic or the rest and digest opposite of that fight or flight. And that is going to significantly lower your heart rate and cortisol within minutes and ultimately create neural pathways. So, new neural pathways, back over to the left column, is that through neuroplasticity. So, that means that repeating the meditation practice is going to weaken the amygdala's stress response, which is why long term practitioners report feeling less hijacked or like reactive to emotions over time. And lastly, stress reduction. So, based stress reduction, MBSR, which we're going to talk about here again in a little bit, is there is actually an 8-week structured program. And I think that this is something I would love to do and offer this as an option as well. But it has been validated in hundreds of clinical trials and is now recommended by many physicians as a frontline intervention for chronic stress and anxiety. And that means that it's replacing our pharmacological options. I'm not opposed to pharmacological options. I think there's always a time and place for them. But if people want to be not reliant on medication, it is a great option for them. So let's talk about the states of emotional being. In the next slide, I'm going to blow up that little chart, the emotional guidance scale down here in the corner. But for now, let's just take a look at when our emotional states are really high. So we're in that anxiety or reactive or overwhelm state. Some of the things, the practices that we could implement is box breathing, which is an inhale to the count of four, hold to the count of four, exhale to the count of four, and then hold to the count of four. So it's literally just in the shape of a box when you think about the inhale, the hold, the exhale, the hold. And that's something that the Navy SEALs practice on a regular basis to help regulate their whole autonomic nervous system during very stressful times when they are in combat or whatever the stressful situation is. We can do just a grounding body scan. So, similar to what we did in the beginning, I didn't really walk you through each body part, but starting at the top of your head, you can close your eyes, noticing the space behind your eyes, your jaw, your neck, your shoulders, and just slowly make your way down your whole entire body to just notice where you're holding tension or where things might just be kind of like feeling a little bit fuzzy. Sometimes, like if we're anxious, that we're feeling it in our chest. If we're overthinking, we kind of have a little bit of a tension headache. So that body scan helps us tune into awareness. And then how we have these tools like box breathing to help us just gently relax that nervous system. And then the loving kindness meditation, which we're going to practice today, is one of my favorite. So that is three options when your emotional state is too high. So let's talk about the options about when it's too low. So we're in this lethargic state, we're feeling numb, we're feeling disconnected, or we're zoning out. In this, of course, I will always reference the good old cell phone. So the scrolling when we're scrolling on our phone and we're disconnecting and we feel like it's a great way for us to just kind of do something mindless, but the reality is sometimes it can bring us down even lower. If we were already not feeling great or we were already feeling numb or disconnected or lethargic, that's not a great option. So when you go back to those rest options, just think about like when you're resting, you want to actually feel rejuvenated and feel good when you get done with it, not feel worse. So oftentimes after we get done scrolling on our phones, I don't know about you, but I hear from a lot of people that it's, and myself included, I just don't feel good. It's not, I'm like, well, that was a half hour, wasted. But if I set the time aside and I'm like, okay, I'm going to set a timer for 15 minutes. I'm going to allow myself the space to do this for 15 minutes. And then I'm on to the next thing. I do feel a lot better about my decision with that. Okay. So let's talk about three different things that we can do. One is an energizing diaphragmatic breath. So, you've heard me talk a lot about the breath and being shallow and right here in our chest. So, again, to just take a nice big inhale through the nose and keep letting it blow up through the rib cage, through the belly, and then exhale. You can even take your hands and put them right on the kind of your rib cages on the sides of your body here and do it again. Inhale and notice if those sides expand. That is what you're looking for. And then exhale and try it again. Inhale and then exhale. And then a second practice is intention setting. So, setting an intention, kind of like what I was just talking about with our phone. So, setting an intention to be engaged with something for a period of time or allow ourselves space to sit with an emotion for a period of time. So, for example, we're all humans. So, we're going to have low moods. We're going to have times where we're just not feeling 100%. And here's the thing, we can allow ourselves that day, that hour, that afternoon, whatever it is that you need, put a time limit on it and then say, okay, starting tomorrow, I'm going to get up and I'm going to go for a walk and I'm going to energize my body. And this is going to be different. So I'm setting an intention for something that is going to help me to be better in terms of like feeling better and on a different track. And then a gratitude practice. We've all heard everything about gratitude, and it is definitely not hokey. It is definitely not hokey. It is such an important practice. And one of the things that I like to share with my clients about a gratitude practice is attach a feeling to the gratitude. That is where the magic is because we can be grateful all day about, oh, I have a car to take me from A to B. Oh, I have a great family. Oh, I have a house, a roof over my head. Like we can think of so many things that we're grateful for, but how does that make us feel? When I have a roof over my head, I feel safe and protected. When I have a wonderful family, I feel loved and appreciated. When I have a car to get me from A to B, I feel that I have freedom. So that is the magic there. So I encourage you to give that a try. So let's take a little bit of a closer look at this emotional guidance scale. You'll see a couple of other things here about pink noise, brown noise. Those are frequencies that can also help calm the amygdala and regulate emotional distress. So you can add that to your toolkit. So let's take a closer look at this emotional state. And I love this because this gives us more word about how we're feeling. So oftentimes we are stuck in the same five feelings. We're happy, we're sad, we're mad, we're, angry, whatever. So, and we seem to box ourselves in these same four or five feelings. And so these are going to give you a little bit more of an in-depth look at how are you really feeling? And maybe this is something that you want to take a picture of and print it up and remind yourself of where you want to fall on, kind of a daily basis and understanding and knowing that we're going to hit those boredom, worry, anger moments, fear, powerlessness, and all of that is part of the human experience. So please understand that I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that, but also understanding when we're starting to get into that unworthiness or fear or grief, depression, we need to do something to take action on that. We might need to call a health coach, you might need to call a therapist, depending on how bad it is. And we can do something to help bring ourselves out of that space. And then when we're in that upward spiral, we might be feeling very enthusiastic and very joyful and very optimistic and very hopeful and very content. We're very content in that moment. I have a sign on my wall in my bedroom, and it's Santosha, which is one of the yamas, I think, or yamas or niyamas. Now I can't think of which one, but anyway, and in yoga, and Santosha means contentment. And it's always my reminder to pause and be grateful for the moment because I am a very person. So I have the tendency to kind of like push into the next thing. Okay, done with that. Ready for the next thing. Here we go. All right. So Zen and 10 as our daily practice. Let's just take a quick breath here, more because I need it, but you can join me in that. All right. The Zen and 10 is a daily practice. So looking at this from each of those koshas, so you can see those are here on the right hand side, we can do just a two minute body check in. And that is where you can do that body scan, noticing the tension, noticing the sensation, noticing any numbness or just kind of lingering feelings. And maybe it can even show up as like warmth or cold, noticing when our hands and our feet are cold or anything like that. And that just grounds you in that physical layer before anything else. And then stepping into the next step of box breathing. So again, very simple. Inhale to the count of four, hold to the count of four, exhale count of four, hold to the count of 4. I would recommend doing that probably 4 or 5 times to begin with, and then you can add on if you would like, or you can try other breath practices as well. But that's a really great way, a really great place to start. That is really helpful for anxiety, for reactivity. And then you also have that diaphragmatic breathing for lethargy, and that's going to help your autonomic nervous system directly in both of those states. And then meditation. Meditation is definitely a practice. It is, I will tell you, I've been practicing for over 15 years now. And I remember the first times I did it, I was like, oh my gosh, I had all the same feelings that everybody comes to me with. Like, I'm not good at this. I can't do it. My heart would start racing if I would hear my kids outside the room, or I would feel like I would needed to jump up and do something because I needed to be helpful to them. And it was so hard in the beginning for me to take that time for myself. But slowly over time, my kids got to know that every day I picked them up from school and we came home and I laid down for 20 minutes. And I was a better mom to them. I felt better. It was just something that I did for myself. Now, some people also say that laying down for them or this kind of a resting meditation is not helpful. Sometimes people have generator energy, which means that it's just hard for them to rest in the middle of the day. So I just encourage you to do, maybe it's a walking meditation, or maybe it is just a 5-minute body scan or something that is going to help you to tune into your body, but not necessarily maybe go into a full meditation or full like laying down kind of situation. For me and my energy type and my practice, I need that full 20 minutes. And then some options for meditation can include loving kindness, rain, which we're going to cover some of these, breath awareness. And of course, the benefit is that it's going to build those new neural pathways and lower stress markers. And then that intention and gratitude, 2 minutes. One value guiding your day, which when you work with me, we do values work. So, just tuning into one value that's guiding your day, one appreciation, activating your wisdom and your bliss bodies, and helps you close with that sense of rest. So there's your intentional 10 minutes, covers the 5 layers of yourself in one consistent practice. So here's your meditation toolkit. These are different options. Some of these, of course, I've already mentioned. Some of them I have not quite yet mentioned. One of them might be just simply a 1 minute pause. And that might be your hourly practice or a few times a day where you're just simply taking a 1 minute pause. Oftentimes, like when our watches, if you have an Apple Watch or some kind of watch that reminds you to stand up every hour, that might be your cue to say, okay, I'm going to take 1 minute to breathe right now. The box breathing we've talked about, the diaphragmatic breathing, we've talked about RAIN, which stands for, and I'm going to talk about this a little bit more in the next slide, is recognize, allow, investigate, and nurture. And this is about emotions and a mindfulness practice to help us understand when emotions are. And then loving kindness, which is cultivating compassion for ourselves and others, which again, we're going to practice today. And yoga nidra, which is one of my favorite ways to practice meditation. If you download the Insight Timer app, it's completely free. Look up yoga nidra and you can find literally hundreds, probably thousands of yoga nidra practices. And they can even start as little as 5 minutes long. Progressive muscle relaxation, a lot of people like too. You can incorporate that into your body scan. So that might be the where you're tightening, like you can tighten over your face and tighten up your shoulders, and then you exhale and you relax. So you're teaching your body that when you have tension in your body, you're teaching it to relax. I just mentioned that walking meditation is an option for busy schedules or for people who simply have a hard time really tuning into a restful time during the day. And then iRest is actually geared for PTSD, but I really, really like it for really anybody. I mean, we all have, I think, on some level, we have multi traumas. So, that helps us understand what our heartfelt mission is, what our intention is, what our inner resource is, and how we can sense our body, sense our breath. So those are some options. And again, feel free to take a little screenshot of that if you would like. And then we'll move on to the rain, which is this mindfulness practice of when when emotions are high, that it helps us to slow down and recognize and maybe write down. This could be part of a journaling process, just feeling at ease in that present moment, slowly taking in your surroundings, recognizing your thoughts, feelings, and physical sensations, and then naming them. And then allowing, I think a lot of times as humans, we oftentimes will push feelings away because it's hard to feel some of the emotions that we feel as humans. But ultimately, observing that feeling as if you're kind of like watching a movie, like let those thoughts and feelings and sensations come up and then let them go without any judgment. And it's okay to feel however you feel because we are humans. So we have a full spectrum of feelings and sometimes even in this all the same day. Investigating, so what words are going through your mind? What emotions are you feeling? Where are they coming from? Sensing those most vulnerable parts of yourself. And that's really called interoception, where we're understanding what we're feeling inside. What's that introspection or interoception? And then nurturing. So being kind towards your experience. So give yourself a comforting message and imagine love flowing to you until you feel calm and centered. All right. So let's go ahead and do the practice here. So I'm going to read to you this loving kindness meditation. And if you're able to just take a few minutes to either, sit still or, find a seated position, a lying down position. If you're driving a car, it's fine for you to listen. Just please don't close your eyes. So just take a few moments here to get comfortable and then allow your hands to kind of just rest wherever they may fall and gently close your eyes if you're able to or hold a soft gaze. We're just going to settle into the awareness of the body, which we've done through our grounding. So maybe just taking a moment again to tune back into the awareness of the body, of the breath, and being open to what is going to be experienced in the body in this moment. Connecting to that breath and noticing the wave like movements of the belly. In this practice, we're cultivating loving kindness. This is something we have within all of us, this natural capacity for loving kindness. It's a friendship that is unconditional and open, gentle, supportive. Loving kindness is a natural opening of a compassionate heart to ourselves and to others. It's a wish that everyone be happy. We begin with developing loving kindness toward ourselves, allowing our heart to open with tenderness. So you may take a moment to imagine a picture of yourself, even as a young child, standing before you, perhaps 4 or 5 years of age. And this might allow just for those tender feelings of kindness to flow a little more easily. And as you experience this tender love that you're feeling for this child, notice how you feel in your body. Maybe warm, expansive, maybe bring a little smile to your face. This is loving kindness, a natural feeling that is accessible to all of us always. So we're going to offer these words to ourselves of loving kindness. May I be filled with loving kindness. May I be held in loving kindness. May I feel connected and calm. May I accept myself just as I am. May I be happy. May I know the natural joy of being alive. Now, repeating those one more time. May I be filled with loving kindness. May I be held in loving kindness. May I feel connected and calm. May I accept myself just as I am. May I be happy. May I know the natural joy of being alive. We're going to do this 2 more times, only this time we are going to actually, it's technically 3 more times, but I don't know if I have that amount of time today, but I'm just going to quickly run through these. This is now the next step is bringing to mind someone who is very dear to you, someone whom you care about, who's been very supportive of you, very loving, and very important to you in your life. And you're going to, in your heart, start to feel your appreciation for that person and then begin your loving kindness offering to them. May you be filled with loving kindness. May you be held in loving kindness. May you feel my love now. May you accept yourself just as you are. May you be happy. May you know the natural joy of being alive. And now we're going to move into a more neutral person. So this could be somebody that you don't see regularly. It might be a neighbor. It might be your post person, your postman, postwoman. It might be the grocery store clerk, just someone that you see every now and then, but you maybe don't really have, you're kind of neutral to them. May you be filled with loving kindness. May you be held in loving kindness. May you feel my love now. May you accept yourself just as you are. May you be happy. May you know the natural joy of being alive. Now, this is the one that is optional because if it feels okay to go here, bring to mind someone with whom you've had a more difficult relationship. Perhaps it's someone you find it difficult to have compassion or sympathy for. And then see if you're able to just for a few moments let go of those feelings of resentment and that feeling of dislike for that person. And that we can remind ourselves that this person is a whole being deserving of love and kindness as well. That they are someone who also suffers from time to time in the human experience. And extend to them, may you be filled with loving kindness. May you be held in loving kindness. May you feel my love now. May you accept yourself just as you are. May you be happy. May you know the natural joy of being alive. And then just taking a nice little cleansing breath. The last step is to just extend this out to all of humanity. So thinking about every living being being filled with loving kindness. May they be happy. May they be awakened and free. And may they all be happy. All right, let's go back to the slides here. So whenever you're ready, join me back here. And let's talk about habit integration. And very quickly, you can again also take any screenshots of these slides if they're helpful for you to come back to. But enjoying some habit stacking that could be attaching your Zen intent to something you're already doing. So it might be that morning coffee time, or, oh, I did this for a healthcare program. So it says before rounds or after charting. So it could be the same thing at work, just whatever you're doing. So it might be after taking care of the kids, or it might be after you're doing something at work that you do every morning during lunch. And then remember that you can start small, that even 1 minute of conscious breathing is a win. And that first step is just writing down what is one small practice you can commit to this week. And remember that this is about consistency, not pressure. So I oftentimes use a rubber band as a reminder, not like you physically don't have to like wear one because you could, I mean, people have joked that you could just like snap the rubber under a wrist, but it's more the reminder of the rubber band extends out as our mind extends out and away from us and we call it back. And then it goes out again and we catch it maybe a little bit less or a little bit sooner than we did before. And then the same thing, like a little bit sooner until we're noticing when our mind is wandering right away. And if that's what we're doing is we're retraining our brain or retraining our mind to help us and for us to be in control of it versus it being in control. So here's some resources for you to consider. The Insight Timer app, Calm app, Headspace app. Personally, I like Insight Timer. I use that regularly. Some books that if you're interested in, and these also translate over to podcast episodes and audiobooks and all those things. So Full Catastrophe Living is that mindfulness-based stress reduction. The Book of Joy is one of my favorites by the Dalai Lama. If you're struggling with staying present, the power of now can be really helpful. YouTube has literally thousands and thousands of videos of guided meditations, yoga nidra, body scans to help you. And then podcasts, 10% Happier with Dan Harris is a good one. Your Wise Self with Sarah is also, I've heard, pretty good as well. And Know Thyself with Andre Duquim is just going to be really kind of in depth. Like it's very, if you're really into kind of like philosophical and like going into deep dives, like that's a good podcast. So feel free to connect with me there. I'll have a on my website, yourwiseselfwithsarah.com. Sarah at thrivewithcoachsarah.com is my email. And then on social at Sarah, anywhere you're on social media. And a freebie for the live participants. I haven't come up with a better one. So I'm just rolling with the 30-minute free coaching session because I would love to connect with each one of you who are showing up for these. And you can have it be about your human design or something that came up for you today. It's completely free and completely just time for you. And I just want you to really feel welcome to take me up on this offer because I know that we oftentimes just simply don't take that time to kind of fill our own cup. And this is one of the ways that you can. And oftentimes Emma is joining us for the session as well. So there she is in the picture. The gift of learning to meditate is one of the greatest gifts you can give to yourself in this life. From Jack Burnfield. I do believe that 100%. And then last but not least, just a couple of reminders of upcoming programs. I'm hosting a retreat here in Iowa in Des Moines with Kira Dobulis on Friday, June 26th. It's going to be an amazing day. I'm going to be releasing a podcast episode. Kira and I recorded that together yesterday. And so I'll be sending that out very soon. I have the next two summer series coming up on June 30th with perimenopause and how to be more proactive versus reactive. And then July 15th will be supplements 101 and just really like talking through what the options are. And it's not meant to be like I'm telling you what supplements to take, but I can help you kind of prioritize what feels the best for you. And then I do have one more spot available in my group coaching format if you're interested. We're getting started in a couple weeks. And two spots open for my one-on-one coaching. And then, of course, just a reminder to go to my website, yourwifeselfwithsarah.com, and click on human design and get your free human design chart and health report there. Right. Well, I just am so grateful to each of you for being here today and for taking this time out for yourself. Thank you so much. And feel free to reach out to me anytime. Have a great rest of your day.